Hi, I'm Autumn. I had an emergency C-section. I VBAC'd, had a miscarriage, and then a scheduled C-section. I am a pastor and a teacher. I am a miraculous mama.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Miraculous Mamas. Thank you, Autumn, for sharing with us why you are a miraculous mama. I love connecting with the women in our community, and if you aren't a part of our Facebook group, definitely going to want to join that. It's Miraculous Mamas. And for those of you just tuning in, Miraculous Mamas is a podcast that believes in empowering women through storytelling and education. So we love bringing people on to share their personal experiences and bring on experts to share information with us so we can all just make the best informed decisions that we can as mothers, as parents, as trying to conceive, as friends. Everyone just shares such amazing insight on this podcast. I'm always blown away by our guests every single week as they share their hearts, as they share their expertise and their stories with us. So I have so much gratitude for the people that take time out of their schedules to come on here, and for the women who take time just to connect with other women in our Facebook group and on the Instagram page, where I always share information about the guests that are coming on. And I also, you guys, I'm super excited. I want to thank everyone who is a part of our Patreon. If you're looking to join, just go to Patreon and you can type in Miraculous Mamas. We share tons of birth stories from our community in there. You can subscribe at any amount that you want. If you want to give $1 a month, any amount helps. And this last month, we were able to donate the proceeds from there we give back with them. So they go to women in need around the world. And this last month, we were able to donate to #HappyPeriod, and they provide menstrual products to anyone with a period that has a low income, is homeless, or living in poverty. They believe that no one should go without menstrual care, and everything that they do, they believe in ending the stigma and breaking that taboo surrounding menstruation. So I'm super excited that we were able to give back to these people at #HappyPeriod, making a difference in women's life. I know every single time my period comes every month, it's not always a fun thing to deal with. And I can't even imagine not having the resources that I needed to help me through that time. So thank you so much to #HappyPeriod for the work that you are doing. I'm so excited about today's guest, Cara Clark. She is, she's one of those people that I just kind of want to put in my pocket and carry around with me all day because she is just a delight. She cracks me up. She's hilarious. She's honest. She talks about her journey of motherhood. She is an intuitive nutritionist. She deals with kids' nutrition, so she's going to give you guys some tips to help your kids eat as well. But she just shares her heart for helping people and her journey through motherhood because she has 4 daughters. But she is just a joy, and I can't wait for you guys to hear from her. So I'm going to bring her on. I'm so excited about our guest that I have for you today. I have Cara Clark on. She's a nutritionist, a wellness expert, and she has 4 little girls. How exciting and chaotic.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have you talk with us about some nutrition and wellness and just share your journey of motherhood with your 4 daughters. So I would love for you just to kind of start by telling us what it is that you do.
Well, I love that we get to talk about the kids because as passionate as I am about nutrition and wellness, I would say my passion has accumulated with the more kids I have, because keeping kids healthy and families healthy is truly a deep-rooted passion of mine, but mostly because of where I am in my own life. And you know how that goes, life cycles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So I started a challenge program 5 years ago, not knowing what would happen, but I wanted to offer affordable services. And, personally, I wouldn't even pay for one-on-one nutrition services. They're so expensive. Mm-hmm. And with life and kids and everything just adds up. And I wanted to create something that everybody could do, because I don't want to be seen as just celebrity nutritionists or, somebody whose services are outrageous. I want my tagline is real people, real food, real results. And I want that to stick no matter what success we see. And so we developed a program that has grown and grown and grown. And so for 5 years, we have, doubled, tripled, quadrupled in size. And we're able to take on over 1,000 people at a time now all over the world and teach them real food nutrition that sticks based on how they feel and not necessarily, a number on a scale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I was reading some of your stuff and you were talking about getting results that it's more like results that you can feel, like you were just saying, and not worrying about weighing in and doing all of that. Because I know from my own experiences, I've been at weights that maybe I was lighter, but I didn't feel healthier. I had to learn how to, what my body needed. I've still been on that journey. I've been on like a crazy health journey this last year because I realized I had some food intolerances and not tons. There's only like a few things that I had to cut back in my diet, but they made a huge difference. But also just realizing what does make me energized when I wake up in the morning, what breakfasts fuel me for the day, because I'm so sensitive that there's some things I eat in the morning and I'm like, I feel like I have to go take a nap. And then there's other things where I have it and I'm like, wow, I feel good. I feel energized for the day. So yeah, I like that.
Well, exactly. And the feeling of, weighing in or even measuring or whatever the fitness world tells you, it's so fleeting, especially for women. And what I can get people to stick to is that feeling, that feeling of feeling good in the morning, that when the first step they take out of bed, they're grateful instead of like, why do I have to get up? And that, the baseline of all that is food. So it's such a great experience to teach people this. And you said your journey, which the beautiful thing about the word journey is that we're all constantly on a journey, right? So even on our good days, we're still on this journey and we know we're going to fall, but we get to climb back up because it's a journey. It's not a diet.
Right. No, absolutely. Well, I've shared very openly on here. I struggled with an eating disorder for several years. So for me, it absolutely was a journey. Like healing my body meant gaining weight. Healing my body meant learning, different habits and lifestyles because I had some health issues because of that. And then I was through food able to heal a lot of those things that had happened. So I do think that it is a journey. I feel like it's so hard because anything else in your life, like, I don't know. I think a lot of people have like food addictions and they don't realize it. Like sugar is like 10 times more addictive than cocaine, And, but as far as like, if you're addicted to drugs, you can go to therapy and stay away from drugs. If you're addicted to alcohol, like you can go to AA. Yeah. You can't live without food. You have to have food in your diet. So it's so hard I think for a lot of people to make those adjustments when it's just right in front of you all the time at a party, at, even in your cupboard, just making those lifestyle changes or not realizing that that's what's causing you to feel fatigued and brain fogged and all these other things. I think it's just such I don't know, for some reason, it's like a hard connection for us to make.
It is. There is definitely the mind, body, spirit connection with, which I know you're familiar with, teaching people to birth and understanding their bodies. And you tell people, and we tell people the same thing. Nobody knows your body better than you, right? Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, in the medical world, that's not what they are going off of. They're not saying tap into your intuition and help us discover what's wrong with you. They're saying, well, let's take a test and let's treat this and let's treat that. But bottom line is if we don't heal from within, we're never really going to heal significantly. And so I feel so blessed to be in a place where I get to be like the number one step for people. Like the first thing you have to do is overhaul your diet, right? And so once they overhaul their diet, then they can start getting closer to feeling like the best version of themselves. I think a lot of us live in suffering and we think that maybe we're called to suffering, or we just think that we're never going to feel good, or we don't even really know what it means to feel good, And so being able to provide people with an affordable program that's not dieting, that's not restrictive, that doesn't cut carbs, that stays away from anything fad and trendy is just such a blessing, especially because I have 4 daughters in Southern California. I mean, can we talk about how young girls start programs here?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Our kids go to a private school, and he brought us in to talk to the 8th grade, or they brought me in to talk to the 8th graders. They didn't want to separate the girls and boys, but they brought me in because the girls were fasting.
Okay.
Because intermittent fasting is a thing, and they hear about it and they want to try it, and they want, girls want to try to control things at a very young age. And most of the time it is, internally, like we think that we can control things. And I know I did it as an 8th grader, not so much with food. My disordered eating didn't come about until I was moving to Southern California. But even in 8th grade, I thought I could control all these things and I could do everything. And and I definitely dabbled with food, but I was, Midwest girl. So I think part of my passion comes from the fact that I'm raising 4 daughters in Southern California, a place where body image is higher. People look upon it as a bigger deal than anywhere else in the world, to be quite honest. And I have that experience because I'm a Midwest girl. I went to college in the Midwest, and then I'm here and experienced it myself. So,
yeah,
that's a big part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's amazing what you're doing then, because I think it needs to start at a young age. Just learning about your body and how to nourish it and take care of yourself, and that you do go through seasons of life. I know me going through puberty was really, really hard. I was a really scrawny kid, and then all of a sudden I was curvy, and it was a struggle for me because my body was growing in areas that, I couldn't control. And, but learning, well, how do you feel? Are you nourishing yourself, and not comparing that. There are so many cool things with social media. It's kind of a double-edged sword. You can constantly compare, and comparison is just the killer of happiness. But you see all these self-love movements. You see these people who are on these journeys. I just actually had a girl on the podcast. Her name's Marie, and she has such an amazing journey. She used to be a bikini fitness model, and then she realized that she was completely draining herself. She was not healthy, and now she's all about nourishing her body from the inside out, exactly what you said. And that for her, it's, I don't have brain fog anymore. I have energy. I feel this way. I'm not worried about what the scale says, and trying to, how do you instill that from a young age?
Yeah. So even with my kids, I try to not make anything off limits. For example, my parents just got in from Ohio, and Ohio, in case you don't know, has the best whipped cream donuts in the world.
I've never heard of a whipped cream donut. What's that?
So, we have all different kinds of names for them, but what are they called? Cream sticks.
I don't know if I've heard of that either.
Yeah, okay. So my point is these are not off limits for my kids, but they also know that they have to have protein and a color. So they woke me up out of bed and said, the donuts are here, and so are Gammy and Pops. Can we have a donut? And I was like, well, what do you need to have first? So between the ages of 3 and 9, 4 girls between 3 and 9, they know that they have to balance their blood sugars still. They might not know exactly what that means, but they know if they're going to have something like that's a treat, they still have to have protein or healthy fat and some colors. And so there's blueberries out, and they said they had cheese. I don't really know because I wasn't down there monitoring. But my point is, I don't want to make anything off limits to cause, a rebellion, so to speak. But I also want them to understand what that's doing to their body. And so the times where I see an effect emotionally, I do a lot, especially with one of my kids. 2 of them can't handle sugar at all. So they know what their limits are, and they would only have half at a time because they don't want to feel like crap. Yeah. And they get to where they're like, I feel like I'm sick. And, they understand what sugar is doing to their body because I help them recognize that. But I don't want them to be, afraid of it or live in fear or think that they can't go to birthday parties and celebrate, because I think that celebration is a huge part of it. And what I'm trying to teach, and we have a new book coming out. I'm co-authoring a book with one of my best friends, Christina Anstead from HGTV. And one thing that we talk about a lot in our book is intention. Mm-hmm. And so while not every meal needs to be a celebration, when you are celebrating, like, you know, your grandparents coming into town or going to a wedding or a big birthday party, those are occasions where it's really okay to eat all the food on the table, right? A lot of times the emotional distress of actually eating the food and what you're telling yourself is going to hurt you worse than the physical food.
Yeah.
So, our brains have more effect on our bodies than the actual biology and physiology of the food and the chemistry and the breakdown. So I'm trying to teach that. And that is a movement along with the intuitive, the self-love, all of that is being reflected, I think, more in even the publishing world from what I understand, which is really exciting. And so teaching my kids that, yes, this is exciting. This is a time to celebrate, but we still want to pay attention to our bodies. You know, we still want to eat 5 colors a day and we still want to balance our blood sugars as much as possible.
Yeah. Wow. That's so cool. It's what you're doing is really cool. And I think that's, you seem to have such a good balance. Because I know even in my mind, I already think I'm going to be a psycho parent who like doesn't. And then I'm like, well, I can't like be like, no, you can never have this because then my kid, they're going to go to somebody's house and eat like all of it and then be sick, you know? So finding that balance and just teaching your kids, hey, okay, you know, when you act like this or when you eat this, you feel like crap. Do you want to feel that way?
Right.
What are your options? Maybe giving them responsibility, starting to take responsibility for their actions. Well, you chose to eat this. Now you feel this way.
Yeah.
You know?
And I do point that out. I have a daughter who has had some heavy metal issues. And so she really has to limit certain foods. And even the ones that we limit aren't off limits, but I'm like, do you want to feel this way? And if you don't mind feeling this way, then you can have a little bit. Of course, she has to take her enzymes too, but I mean, we're still going to be proactive, but you're right. Like I thought I had that kind of control when I had my first, and she didn't have a juice box until she was like 3. And her birthday cakes were more like, you know, muffins, and they didn't really have much flavor to them. And then by the time I had a 4th child, the kid had her passy till she was 3, you know, like there's no, by the time you have a 4th child. And I learned my lesson, and I didn't necessarily learn the hard way. I just think it's, like I said at the very beginning, it's a life cycle, you know, and I would rather my kids be empowered to make good decisions than to be heavily restricted. Mm-hmm. But that's my opinion. I've been very harshly judged. And I'm sure everybody's been through it that carries a following on Instagram for what I pack in their lunches and how I pack them and that sort of thing. But I also learned like I don't want my kids to lie to me, you know, and I see kids lying to their parents about what food they ate. And I don't want them to waste food, and I don't want them to be hungry. And so when I try to be as realistic as possible, and I learned in the last couple of years, the more true I am to myself, then the more likely I am to post and share things. I think I went through a few bouts where I didn't even want to post and share things because I was worried about what other people were going to think.
Yeah.
And sure, there's like people that are, I mean, I always am going to have support because that's just the nature of my following. It's positive, it's community, whatever. But there's always going to be those few people that just hate it, and I can't do it for them, you know? And so
absolutely.
This year I shared a couple of lunches when I had time. I had to get 4 kids out of the door by 7:10, which is a miracle in itself, much less, you know, the lunch is packed. But I shared a lunch this year at the end of the year, and I was kind of saying like, I'm over it. Like there's packaged chips from Trader Joe's. There was seaweed. There was apple sauces, and I got ridiculed by a couple people. It was insane. But at the same time, I'm like, you know, 90% of these moms are looking at this like, I can do that. If I had everything homemade, everything jarred, everything meticulously set in there, people would skim by the post and be like, not me.
Right. No, absolutely. This episode is brought to you by Love Every. That's Lovevery. Love Every is an award-winning children's playtime company that's reimagining what kids' toys can be. Love Every play products are science-backed and distilled to their simplest, purest purpose to be exactly what children need and want at each stage of development. How cool is that? The network structure of your baby's brain is formed in its very first years. The more you expose your baby to early development experiences, the richer these neural networks become. Love Every products are designed by child development experts to foster cognitive development during this important time, to make it easy for modern parents to give their kids the best possible start in life. Love Every is a parent-run company, and they've done the research so that you don't have to. Love Every offers a subscription box service, which consists of play kits. Love Every's play kits are beautifully designed and carefully curated with the best science-backed, eco-friendly, and non-toxic toys that your baby or toddler will benefit from and love to play. All of Love Every toys are also ASTM F963 compliant and safe for teething, mouthing babies. Each play kit is designed to foster development at specific stages in your child's life, building their physical, cognitive, visual, and motor skills on schedule as they grow. The play kits start at 0 to 12 weeks and continue all the way to 24 months, taking your child from basic visual and sensory experiences to early stages of vocabulary, imagination, and problem solving. I actually ordered a Love Every play kit just to kind of see what it was all about. And guys, it is so cool. And the things that come in it, I don't know, it's stuff that Vito and I have talked about. Like when we have kids, we want to make sure that we're giving them things that are going to help them developmentally grow. But the thing that I love about it right now is since I don't have kids, it's such an easy gift for me to give to people that it's from 0 to 12 months. You can sign them up for the subscription. You can send them one of the kits. You can do it for the year for them. It's such a cool gift to give people because a lot of people aren't even aware of this company that is making these such cool toys for your kids' development. And Love Every's play kits were named one of the best inventions of 2018 by Time Magazine, and experts agree. This is the smarter way to engage your child and make playtime meaningful. And we've got a deal for our listeners. Right now, Love Every is offering our listeners $15 off a new play kit subscription. And if you're like me, you're going to want your child to have all of them. This offer is only available for a limited time and only when you visit loveevery.com/babies and use our code BABIES at checkout. That's loveevery, loveevery.com/babies to check out all of the incredible play kits that Love Every offers, and you'll save $15 off your subscription with our special code BABIES. We thank Love Every for sponsoring the podcast, and remember, when you support our sponsors, you help make this podcast possible. So thank you so much, guys. I actually read something yesterday that hit home for me on some topics, but it's like people who judge you judge themselves, you know, so it has nothing to do with you and the work that you're doing, but sometimes we interpret it that way.
Right.
You know,
I agree. That's absolutely true. And I think in the last few years, and you know how it is being, you know, in the public eye, is like, you have to really align and connect with your own truth and like your own values. And when you are connected to that, like, I know I'm going to let my kids have cake at a party. I'm connected to that. You know what I mean? So I'm not ashamed of it anymore, you know? And so I don't mind sharing it either. The more I share my truth and teach people the way I live my life and how I move on from a bad choice meal, I don't call it cheating because I just don't think cheating should be a part of a lifestyle vocabulary.
Yeah, that's good.
Then the better off we all are. Same with my kids. I don't want them to think that mommy's on a diet. I want them to think mommy needs energy to be able to maintain this crazy life. Crazy beauty.
Yeah. That's so good. I mean, I'm sure being a certified nutritionist, I can't imagine. I feel like I would probably feel like, okay, I can only show the healthy meals I make. I can only show the everything homemade. That definitely makes sense. So that's awesome that you were able to find that place where you're like, hey, life is about balance and I'm okay with this. And I want to teach my kids honesty. That's something that we value in our home. I want to teach my kids about, you know, what makes them feel good. We value that. So that's so good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
think the only good thing about aging is the wisdom that comes with it.
Yes. Yes.
Like the higher I hike up into my 30s, the more I don't care what other people think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I always say your 20s are the hard lessons and your 30s are where you just really start to own who you are.
That's so true. It's so true. I can see my fine lines and I can feel, my body aches from just sleeping. I'm like, I'm at the age where I get injured in my sleep. But at the same time, like there's so many other areas of growth that I would not trade for my 20s in a minute. So I'm thankful for it.
No, absolutely. No, for sure. My 20s were a rough one.
When you talk about disordered eating, when I first started my business, I should back up to, 10, 11 years ago. I started with sororities because I played college basketball. And after basketball was over, I didn't know what to pour myself into. And so I poured myself into obsessively exercising and obsessively dieting. And I wanted my body to look a certain way. I didn't really care how it felt. And when I was picking that, and I'm a believer too, and I have a really strong faith, and I was like, this is not what God wants for me. So it was like a matter of understanding, like I was just doing it wrong. Mm-hmm. But I also had a moment where like, I don't think anybody in their 20s escapes that. Any girl in their 20s escapes those feelings and those control issues and those like leaning towards, major calorie and carb restriction. I don't think a woman bypasses that. And so I was like, where would be the best place for me to help people? And so I started with sororities, where I read a unnerving statistic that 3 out of 5 sorority girls admit to having an eating disorder. That means don't have it, that don't admit it or even recognize it. And so that's where I started my business. And I was able, before kids, to take these girls grocery shopping and teach them how to train without, one of my things has always been like moderation, right? And so even when I was a personal trainer or fitness trainer, I made them keep their heart rate under a certain amount. Whereas like you go to gyms and you have, no offense, but male trainers who are like, go, 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 go. Well, that is a terrible impact on girls. And being above target heart rate is going to cause you to burn fuel from your muscles. So similarly to what I teach in nutrition, when you're under eating, you're burning fuel from your muscles. When you're overworking out, you're burning fuel from your muscles. And so basically you're like butting heads with yourself. You're not going to results. You're not going to tone up in the trouble areas or, feel like you're getting results if you're just beating your head against the wall.
Yeah.
And so that has always been my, my philosophy, whether it's training or nutrition.
Yeah. I've worked out with, I think 4 male personal trainers in my past, and all of them except for one, because my last one, I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. The other 3, it was all cookie cutter plans. It was the same diet, the same workout, the same everything. And I hated the diet all the time because it was always the same thing, which I didn't like those foods. My body doesn't do well with some of those foods. So I never followed through on diet. The workouts I was fine with. I love doing like interval workouts, but I also was recently studying some things too. Women, depending on what phase they're at in their cycle, what week of the month it is too, like going over a certain heart rate really affects your hormones and causes stress on the body.
And your adrenals.
Right. Yeah. So I was like, wow, that's so crazy.
It really is crazy. And I think the same thing, we're kind of talking about the expectations of when you are a certified nutritionist or when you're, a wellness expert. People expect that you never get sick. You never experience, the same things they experience. Well, a year and a half ago, I was just going way too hard in my life. My kids were on 3 different school schedules and I didn't have a nanny and I worked full time and I run my own business. And on any given day, I have like 6 employees and anyway, my body and my mind got really worn out, and I could not, if I worked out like at Orange Theory, for example, I had a headache and was tired the rest of the day, but I was not recognizing that as slow down for whatever reason. I was like, I'm an athlete. Like, what's wrong with me? And I finally took myself to my daughter's functional medicine doctor. And she basically said, like, do not get your heart rate over what a pregnant girl should.
Which is like 140, right?
Mm-hmm. She was like, I want you between 130 and 140 and no higher. And so literally for a year, I did not go over 140 during my workouts. And it made a huge difference. And I started to feel good workouts again. And so it's again, like you said, in your cycle, so your monthly cycle, but then also in your life cycle, like we have to recognize that change isn't a bad thing, but we have to shift. We have to shift gears in all avenues of our lives. Like sometimes I have food intolerance issues like you're talking about. And then other times I'm okay, but
yeah, same.
It's an awareness. It's an intuition. It's recognizing that. And a lot of times they come and go with stress. And I don't know if yours are worse when you have more projects and more stuff lined up. That's how mine get. I have to, be a little bit more restrictive in my diet when I have a lot of projects and stress because I'm not digesting as well because the acids in my stomach are too high because my adrenals aren't working well. It's just the nature of our bodies. And like I teach food, but I really want people to understand the mind, body, spirit connection.
Yeah. I was recently at a family reunion and we were talking about that because my family's awesome. It was such an amazing healing weekend for me because I come from a very strong family of faith and people like, I didn't even see anyone on their cell phones all weekend. People were just connecting and having such a good time and just loving on each other. But we do carry, we talked about hereditary illnesses in our family. We had like a family meeting about that. And a lot of people in our family struggle with a lot of the same issues. So we started also talking about the mind-gut connect. And it's so huge. And I don't know that much about it. I would love to learn more, but I even know like back in the day, they used to think that your brain was in your stomach. And that's also where you get like the term, like a gut feeling, like go with your gut, not go with what your mind's telling you, like go with your gut. What's your gut telling you? Because your stomach like feels things. It's so weird.
It's so true because the acids in your stomach change. It really is the second brain and you really should trust your gut. But I think what you were saying, being disconnected, it's easier to do that when you're disconnected. When you have your phone, you can Google or you can, you know what I mean? Like everybody's a doctor because they can look it up, but like turn your phone off and like, it sounds cheesy, but ask your body what's going on. What do you feel? Like, what is your stomach telling you? I know it sounds crazy, but your gut is technically starting from your throat all the way down to your booty.
Yeah.
Where it comes out. And so where it comes in, where it comes out, that's like, that can be a 27-foot length, a course, what they call it. So anywhere along those lines can lie a problem, can be too much acid, could be too rough, could be, I don't really like to think of gut as leaky necessarily, but I do think of it as inflamed.
Yeah.
When you have that inflammation, it goes everywhere in your body. That can be from physical trauma. It can be from emotional trauma. It could be from what you didn't even think was trauma. It could be from so many different things. And you're right. Like hereditary illness is it's no joke. It's real. A lot of times we attach to that at young ages. We kind of think automatically we're going to experience the same thing as everybody else did, but you can cut those ties by changing your lifestyle.
Yeah. Yeah. I know for my family, there's a few, I'm going to butcher this one. It's like the FT in something R something.
MTFR. Yeah.
That runs in my family, which means sorry, say it again.
MTHFR.
I'm going to write it
down. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, it makes it harder detoxing. Your body has a harder time detoxing. So that gene runs in my family, which I haven't been tested for it, but I'm pretty positive I have it. And then, like hemochromatosis. So we overproduce iron. A lot of the men in our family have to give blood. And there was like one other one that I know my dad and my sister and I probably have, which it's the methyl something. You metabolize vitamin B differently. But so some of it, like I think the MTHFR gene, I can't necessarily prevent, but knowing it, then I can be proactive about it.
Exactly.
You know, so it's like, okay, I can
do a
avoid
better Right. And exactly. You can do a better job of avoiding the toxins that are causing backup in your liver.
Right. Yeah. So it was really like I learned all of that at my family weekend too. I'm pretty sure my sister's told me about it before. She's a nutrition coach and she's just awesome. So I always like call her with anything and she'll be like, you have to do this. And I'm like, okay.
Well, it's nice to know you can trust somebody to just tell you what to do.
Right. I mean, I trust her. I mean, but she also like, there's times where she'll be like, you need to go get something looked at, you know? But,
yeah, for sure.
But she also has 4 kids. So she's been there before me. So it's nice to also have somebody like that in your life who, that you can look up to nutritionally also with their kids. You know, she's been through different battles with her children and it's, you know, being able to see different routes that you can take and alternatives and things like that to keep your family healthy. So
I can get behind that.
Yes. I would like to back up a little bit further to, so your oldest is 9 years old. So you were still in your 20s then. Did your nutrition with your first child look very different than your nutrition with your last child being pregnant?
Yes and no. So when I did my certification, I was probably like 22 or 23 is when I first started really pouring into my studies. But at that point, like the most important thing for me was combining my macros. And so when I was pregnant with my first, I actually got pregnant on our honeymoon. So it was
wow.
I came off of, heavily drinking. I was pregnant right before my 25th birthday. I tried really hard to combine my macros in that pregnancy, but that looked more like, a bagel with cream cheese.
Yeah. I have a quick question. I've never understood macros when people are like, oh, your macros and whatever. I just skim over it because I don't get it. So if you're saying you're combining your macros, what does that mean?
So my whole intention, especially at that point, was to never eat a carb by itself.
Okay.
Do you have a good understanding of what carbs are? Or
yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I deal with people on all different levels. So I never mind going back to what I would call the elementary version. So never ever eating a carb by itself. So carb is a macro, fats are macros, and proteins are macros. If you eat your proteins and fats with your carbs, then you're going to stabilize your blood sugar and you're going to burn fat as fuel. But that's the premise of it. So, but when I was pregnant with my first, combining my macros was more like eating a hamburger with my bun and eating cream cheese with my bagel because the cream cheese is the fat and the protein. And so, yes, I definitely evolved, although I will say, and I still tell my clients this because I was very sick, and no matter how well I ate and no matter what I did, I was really sick for 3 out of the 4 pregnancies. All 4, I was sick for the first 14 weeks throwing up, but 2 of them, I was puking the whole pregnancy. I had trouble getting 15 pounds on in my pregnancy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so it did look a little bit different. I also wasn't worried about gaining weight. My babies were growing and they were getting all the nutrients. I knew my body wasn't necessarily thriving. So yeah, it definitely changed with my 3rd, 4th pregnancies, later in my 20s. And I think I got pregnant with my 4th when I was 30. I was definitely trying to implement more colors, more magnesium, trying to get eggs every morning to help my body absorb a little bit better, and definitely understood the physiology of the food I was eating a little bit better. And that's just time and wisdom, like we've talked about at the beginning. So yeah, there was definitely a huge shift. At the same time, a lot of days I was just trying to keep a meal down.
Man, I've heard more and more about, Did you have like hyperemesis then?
No, I was never diagnosed with that. The only thing, they didn't really diagnose me with anything. They did, try to manage my weight a little bit. And I definitely had extra appointments once in a while based on not gaining weight and just trying to monitor the baby. They were never concerned that I was, dehydrating or I wasn't getting any nutrients. So no, I was never diagnosed with that. It was just rough. My body does not do well with pregnancy. If it did, I would have 2 more kids.
Yeah. I feel like I've heard more and more about women who are sick throughout the pregnancy, probably just because I'm like in the field now. But I mean, most people just think, oh, you have morning sickness like through your first trimester and then it's easy and, but that's just not the case for a lot of women.
I think partly because I know what it feels like to feel really good. And so when I started not feeling really good, I felt really bad, like it was either really good or really bad. My husband even makes fun of me in life. He's like, things are not all good or all bad.
You're a black and white person.
I'm very black and white. It's definitely like one of my flaws. But yeah, as soon as I started puking, it was all bad. Right. So they're coming back. And once I was done puking around 20 weeks, I know puking is not the scientific term, but
yeah,
I would get migraines and I'm just I couldn't manage my pregnancy hormones to save my life. And literally I had such bad, varicose veins too. So I did everything right to avoid them. I exercised, I wore the compression hose. I didn't really gain much weight and I still got them so bad. My 4th, they were concerned that they were going to cause more blood clot issues. And so I was literally like hooked up to machines on all 4 ends of my body. It was miserable. Every single pregnancy by 39 weeks, my body had given up in one way or another. So every baby was born at 39 weeks and it was more like forced than natural, which always stinks. My 4th was the most naturally, but my blood pressure would be like stroke level. And like, again, I was eating right. I was doing everything right. One baby, I literally could not move. My sciatica was so bad. I couldn't sit, stand, lay. I couldn't do anything. Another baby, my water had been leaking for like a week. I mean, I just gave up. It was weird. I feel like such a wimp. Like I don't really talk about this publicly because it's almost embarrassing. Like I know so much about the body, but yet with pregnancy, I was a fool,
No. I mean, everybody does carry so differently, and you never know what that journey is going to be like for you. And it doesn't mean that you're a wimp because you brought 4 beautiful little girls into this world. Yeah. I would love to hear, 2 questions. First of all, were you able to get rid of your varicose veins after?
Oh yeah. They're so hormonal. It's wild. They went away like in the first week.
Cause I have one on my leg. Cause I was in the service industry forever and I wore high heels to work all the time. I have a varicose vein on my left leg that like hurts sometimes.
So mine definitely throbbed during ovulation and my period. So, but other than that, they go away. It's very, very strange. But when I'm pumping more blood, like I said, during the hormone shifts, they throb. Fortunately, like from a visual standpoint, they're not, nobody else notices but me. In pregnancy, my leg was black.
Yeah.
And my husband would be like, it looks like you're wearing a cup. Like that's how swollen down.
Oh my gosh. That's so painful.
And even when my baby's heads were popping out, they'd be like, wait, is that the head or is that your veins? It was so bad.
Ouch. Yeah. That's so hard. So how were then your births?
They all were.
Because you said they were kind of forced.
Yeah, I had great experiences considering the circumstances. So my first was the one where I was leaking fluids for like 4 days. And so by the time they realized it was fluids, they were a little anxious to get her out of me. Mm-hmm. And, you go into it with a plan and all your own personal, needs. And then you shift gears as soon as they start talking about the baby, you're like, whatever you need to do for the baby. Mm-hmm. And so I went the route of like getting induced and all that. And it went well, it went by the book. Mm-hmm. As far as the first labor goes. It was not my plan, of course. And she had the cord wrapped around her neck. And fortunately, I had midwives there too. They were doing massage and they were, helping it along. But at one point, they were a little concerned about the cord and started talking about operation. They said, you need to just bear down and like help us get this baby out. I'm like, I'll do anything I need to, So I actually had a midwife put her hand up there and unwrap the cord.
Yeah.
So I was able to carry on, and she was born, in an hour of pushing every 3 pushes because, mommy was low oxygen then. And mm-hmm. So that one was a little scary. I saw my mom in the corner praying Hail Marys. So I was like, and I'm one of 7 kids, someone understands. And I was like, what's happening? I just need to get this baby out of me. But, she was perfectly healthy. Everything was good after that. And that's kind of all you remember, And then my second, I was 5 centimeters at my 38.5 week appointment.
Wow.
And I was like, well, yeah, just walking around, hanging out. That was the other. I always dilated early and carried really low. And like, even their hiccups, I swear their mouths were outside of my stomach. You could feel them so low.
Yeah.
My second, they're like, okay, we just really need to monitor you. When your mom gets here, can you come back to the hospital? So I came back and they're like, we just can't send you home in this state, which is silly because I feel like they let people walk around all the time like that. And so she was like, well, can I, and again, it's a midwife. So they take, into consideration your station and all that stuff. And if your body is ready, my body is definitely always ready. My blood, like I said, my blood pressure again. So they were like, well, your water or your sac is really low. And, with the last baby, it started leaking. You carry so low. Sometimes they thought that was blocking the water from like bursting. But so she broke the water and she goes, get ready for a long night. No, less than an hour later, maybe 2 hours later, I was pushing her and I got 2 solid pushes. She was my biggest at almost 9 pounds a week early.
Oh, wow.
So that was fun. So then I get ready for my third. The third was where I had the sciatica, the super strict level blood pressure. And they're like, okay, let's do the same thing as the second. I was only like 4 centimeters, so not 5. I think that's pretty significant difference as far as labor goes. So I was just walking around doing my squats and, everything I could to try to get going. And they were like, okay, that they did not like my blood pressure and the baby's heart rate. And so they did the same thing. They broke my water. They said, get ready for a long night. And the funny thing with her, I was 4 centimeters. Okay. Well, then 15 minutes later, I'm like, this baby's coming. And they're like, no, you were just 4 centimeters or whatever it was. I'm like, I am either going to poop or push out a baby. So you guys need to get ready. And I never pushed her. She just came out.
She just came on out.
The poor thing. And she's the one with the issues too. And some of the naturopaths that I see have said that she didn't spend enough time in the birth canal because she literally shot out. She had bruises all over her face and she didn't pass the hearing test. So she had fluid issues and they thought maybe she didn't get enough of the gut microbiome from the birth canal either. So it's like, dang, you can't win sometimes. And then with my fourth, I'd been in active labor all day and I finally got to do it the way I wanted to do it. I had my yoga girl come over. She was doing the labor massages. We had the essential oils going. I had, my blankets and everything was ready. And I was in labor finally on my own completely. I was only 3 centimeters though, which is so weird.
Yeah.
You just expect that it's going to be so different. Then my water started trickling down my legs. So again, I got to have the real experience, got to pack my bag, take the shower, stuff I've never done before. Finally at my fourth, I get to the hospital. They're like, you're in labor. Just keep walking around. Keep going. You got this. Okay. So they're letting me walk around. I am going so slow in this labor. It was so weird. And by the time I was like 7, I was like, or 6 centimeters. I'm like, I cannot take this anymore. Like I'm going to die. And I'm not a night person either. And it was like midnight. And like, well, let me see what I can do. Let me see if I can loosen it up. So the midwife goes down there and she tries to loosen it up. And actually it wasn't the midwife, it was a nurse. And she was like, you have a lot of scar tissue. And so she pulled out like centimeters of scar tissue, apparently.
What?
Yes. And I finally went into like full blown labor after hours and hours and hours of like not moving. So I don't know if I was actually dilating more, and it didn't seem like it because of the scar tissue. So they said the scar tissue had formed from my third going so fast. Because you would think the fourth would fall, but that was just not the case. My fourth was almost as hard as the first. So
wow.
All that said, I love labor and delivery. I would do that 100 times. I hate pregnancy. Get to 39 weeks and I'm good.
Yeah. Well, you had mentioned if you could handle pregnancy more, you'd want 2 more kids. And my husband and I always talk all the time about how we'd like 5 kids, but I always tell him, I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to feel. I don't know how my body's going to handle it. I don't know how my pregnancies are going to go. I don't know how my births are going to go. I don't know how my postpartum's going to go. So it's like, I cannot guarantee you anything.
But I will say that is such a short term. Like we think you're going to feel that way forever, right? Like I say the trimester is probably the worst because you have the brain fog and your body's adjusting back and you're nursing. I love nursing because I feel so relaxed. Like it's the one thing that like gets me to sit. Nothing gets me. So yes, you're right. Like you don't know how you're going to feel, but at the same time, it's like so short term. And I always think of it like, when I'm at the end of my life, I want to be surrounded. I want to feel like, I had a life well spent and I have all these people that love me and that I love. And I just love kids. Like I think abnormally, I love kids. And so the stages of, and I love other people's kids too. Like I am I tell people like, if you ever know somebody that is in trouble and can't take care of their baby, like please call me. It just doesn't faze me. Like even crying, I had a brother die too when I was 16 and he was a newborn and he never cried. And so from that point on, like baby crying never bothered me because when we unplugged his machines, if he cried, that was going to be a miracle. And so then from like then on out, I thought every time I heard a baby cry, I'm going to cry. I thought, what a miracle, and like we get so like uptight when babies cry, but like, we're the ones who are calming them. And like, if you think about what they've come from, like they were so comfortable and now you're like putting clothes on them and you're making them so uncomfortable. You know what I mean? And of course they're going to cry. They're going to look to you to, comfort them. And so I just don't think of like babies crying and, kids whining as a bad thing. I think that means they're healthy, good, I'm like, I'm not now. So I think the joys of kids and when you can be present with them, and this goes back to eating well and feeling good. A lot of moms don't feel good. I think they're not taking great care of themselves or as good of care as they can, or maybe they are and they still don't feel good. I think that when you do eat well and you exercise and take care of yourself and you can be more present, then just the things they say and the progress they make in their development and growth is just so overwhelmingly joyful to me. And so like adding 2 more to my mix, because I'm an even numbers person, so I couldn't do 5. It's either 5 or 6.
That's so funny because my husband's an odd number person. He's like, we have to have an odd number of children. I'm like, again, I cannot promise you anything.
But then you get a middle child who carries that to adulthood. I'm like, because I'm technically a middle child, but I'm like one of many middle children because our family's so big. I'm like, I am not giving any kid that excuse.
Right. I'm the middle child. It's like, you know what? So is your sister.
There's 3 middle children. You're fine.
Right. Exactly. That's so funny.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good way to put it. I mean, when your kid's crying, it's like just being grateful that your kid is alive and healthy and strong and able to give you those cues of what they need from you.
Right. Right. And you're the only person really who can fulfill those needs, you know, and that's just such part of the miracle to me. It's all such a miracle, you know, like that second you push them out, and we never found out what we were having, but it was like inevitable. We kind of knew, you know, but just that, like, what is it? What is she? And who is she? And like, all of that is just such a precious miracle to me. And now I work with so many women who struggle to even get pregnant. And so like, I just, you know, for my clients, I'm so thankful. For myself, I'm so thankful. And don't get me wrong, I have my moments, and I'm not a mom who's like, I yell, and, you know, I do it on purpose. I'm intentional about my yelling because I need to get them a little unnerved to know I'm serious. You know what I mean? I had my sister in the car with us the other day, and they were all screaming and being loud. And I go, watch this. I kind of slammed the brakes and made them nervous. And I was like, stop it right now. There's so much traffic. And they all settled down. And it was like, I don't have to keep screaming. I just have to scare the crap out of them once in a while.
That is so funny. Oh my gosh.
Safety. So yeah, I guess like we're all a little crazy in my house, and we have 2 out of dance parties for my husband. And, you know, there's a lot of whining, and I make my kids work it out too. And so there's sometimes some screaming matches there too.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to overcommit on mothering.
Yeah. That's nice though. I mean, it teaches them coping skills and how to deal with conflict with each other.
Yeah, I definitely think that people see that in different ways. Right. But that's how I look at it.
That's how we're going to interpret it.
Yeah, we're going to say I'm doing a good job, right?
Yes, absolutely. And do you have, I guess, any, like for the listeners, maybe just if there are people who aren't feeling that well or want more energy, or trying to figure out how to make their kids eat healthier, whatever it is, do you just have a couple of tips you can leave everyone with?
I do. I have tips, and I also actually have 5 documents and products on my website that are for moms and kids. And every one of my programs is pregnancy and breastfeeding friendly. So I don't exclude our friends that need to eat more or have different needs. I just teach them how to know they need to eat more, and also how to swap foods. Like you said, you have a lot of food intolerances. Well, I'm not going to tell you, you know, what to do, but I'm going to show you how to swap those. So I think the number one thing I see, and especially for busy moms, is under eating. Mm-hmm. I don't think that we're properly fueling our bodies and minds for the activity level that we're trying to commit to with raising kids and being active in their lives. And so the few pieces that I'll leave, which are part of my philosophy, are eating within the hour of waking up. That really kind of sets your metabolism, and it wakes up your mind and your body. And the exception to that is if you're going straight to exercise, if you're going straight to a workout. And I know a lot of moms do that in order to get it in. And I used to when my kids were younger. That's the exception, but eat right after your workout. Keep in mind that your energy and your fuel is going to come from your food. So eating every 3 to 4 hours after that, combining your macros like we already talked about, carbs, fats, and proteins every single time you eat, eating 4 to 5 times a day, the same consistent meal sizes. And so not like small snacks and huge meals, and eating 5 colors a day. And same goes for the kids. People always say, but I have kids, like, how can I do your program? I'm like, trust me, your kids need this. Kids want what their parents have. Like, it's going to take them maybe 3 green smoothies of watching you eat before they eat your whole smoothie. Like, I hide from my kids when I'm eating, even if it's a salad. They always eventually want what you have. So when you're dealing with kids, like, just keep eating it and pretend like you don't want them to have it. That's what I do with my 3-year-old right now. I play a lot of games. I fake cry if they don't eat my dinners.
Oh my gosh.
And my favorite game to play with my 3-year-old is like, I'm going to walk over here and look at the birdie outside. And when I come back, I can't wait to have my big bite of avocado. And sure enough, I come back to an empty plate and I pretend to bite it. And she just thinks it's so funny. So I am not above like playing manipulation games in order to get them to eat their colors. And sometimes I tell my clients that they've had really meal a day, like, don't worry. You know, we worry a little bit too much when our heads hit the pillow at night. All we think of are the bad things and how much fruit and vegetables they didn't eat. Well, to focus on the good things and things will fall into place.
Yeah, absolutely. Give yourself some grace.
Exactly. Grace wins.
Yes. And then if people want to check out your program or learn more about you, where can they find you at?
So you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and my website is all caraclarknutrition.com with a C, C-A-R-A, Clarke Nutrition. And the best program to start with would be the 10-day reset. And then you can go and see all of our cookbooks. We even have a lunch packing kit for parents to teach them how to pack more balanced lunches. And we have a snack book that's super kid friendly. I mean, they're all kid friendly, but if you're starting with the piggy kid from square one, you want to still make pudding and cookies and stuff like that. So these are our trick ways to make them. So my website, you can find everything and it links up to all social accounts.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Cara, for coming on. You cracked me up. Thank you for sharing your story, sharing your nutrition, being honest about yelling at your kids. I love it.
For the sake of safety.
What?
It's all for the sake of safety.
Yes, absolutely. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on and we will talk to you soon.
Okay. Thanks, Liz.
Take
Bye.
care. I just love her. She is a delight. I just want to remind you guys, if you want to find out more information about her, I will be posting it in the Miraculous Mamas Facebook group and on the Instagram page, where to follow her and how to link up with her and everything like that. Because she's an awesome resource. I love following her and seeing the things that she's posting. I'm on a crazy health journey of my own, and she actually posts some awesome recipes. I made these brownies that she posted the other day, and they were like these dark, rich, good brownies, and it was all clean, really good ingredients in it. And I loved it, and my husband loved it. He actually liked it cold, so I put it in the fridge, and he went to grab a bite. He's like, oh my gosh, these are so good cold. They're so fudgy. So anyways, she's awesome. I want to remind you guys to join our Facebook group if you're not a part of it, to just commune with other women, like-minded women, to get mothering advice, to just connect, to sometimes vent, whatever you need. The Miraculous Mamas Facebook group is there for you. And follow the Instagram page at Miraculous Mamas to find out more information about the guests. And also, I always post just little snippets of information, education. I'm always finding these educational accounts about switching to solids for your kid and where to start, or how to, help your baby nap better. I always try to find information and articles to post on the stories there. So definitely follow that. And again, if you're not a part of our Patreon, it is a great way to give back and to hear birth stories and just feel more connected to the wonderful women that listen to this podcast. So join there and give back, be a part of a bigger cause. It is a really fun passion project of mine. I love being able to bring women together and then donate that to women in need. So thank you again so much to the women who are a part of that. And you guys, again, I just love you. Thank you so much for the support. I get at least a couple times a week, you guys reaching out to me and just telling me that you love the podcast and you love what I'm doing with it. And honestly, your support carries me a very long way. You guys are awesome. I love the feedback. I love learning from you guys. You've given me tips and secrets that help me grow and be better at my job as well. So thank you for that. And yeah, I just love you guys so much. And I can't wait to share with you the episode next week. Have a good week, guys. Bye. This podcast is brought to you by Wave Podcast Network. Check out all of our shows, including the Brain Candy Podcast, I Don't Get It, Coffee Convos, and Let's Talk About It.